Right.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. We welcome you all to another session of our Black History Month night discussions. And today we're having one of our beloved brothers who I've heard about for years, and mashallah, known to be a soldier in his sojourn in Islam. And we wanted to have a discussion of life lessons as a Muslim. And in these life lessons, it is for people who have experience in the deen and experience in life to just have a dialogue about their life and their experiences, the successes, the trials, the tribulations, the ups, the downs, to how we got where we're at right now. So inshallah, our brother Tanweer Sahib, he's going to give us an introduction to himself and tell us what is on his mind that he would like to share with us during these nights and some benefits we can take from him. Barakallahu fikum. Tafaddu Sayyidi. Go ahead.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. My name is Tanweer Sahib, and I was born on October 18, 1954. So I've been around for a minute. I'm 66. I embraced Islam in 1989. And I gotta tell you, in those days, when I embraced Islam, it was an amazing experience. It truly was. I had done so many things in my life already. I had been a revolutionary. I had gang banged when I was young. I joined the Panther Party when I was 13 years old, a junior Panther. I was in BLA. The one thing that I remember that was missing from those groups that stood out for me is that there was no religious foundation or basis to live off of. We were going through, like, I grew up in New York. I'm from Brooklyn. And basically there was, like, at that time, we're talking about 1969, 1968, 69. There was, like, some Afrocentric groups like Irosasa and different things like that. And we go down the park and play drums and do a lot of Afrocentric kind of things. But the way I got to Islam, it was a journey, and a lot of things happened back then. Some stuff that I would never do it that way again, because it just didn't make sense. When I look at it now, especially after learning some of the things that I've learned in Islam, it just wasn't the right thing to do, not the right way to go about doing it. My first introduction to Islam was through the Nation. You got to understand that back in those days, the dress style was different. We kind of wore cashmere coats and beaver hats and alligator shoes. I used to go to school like this with silk sharkskin suits on. That's the way we dressed. The young people dressed that way. For things like we went to shows and stuff like that. Around the way, we dressed like everybody else did. But most of the time, we tried to dress up all the time. It was just the style of dressing those days. So when I went to one of the temples for the nation. I went out and bought my bow tie. I had my, my trench coat. I was all ready. I walked in there, I was 15. Now, I did some experimenting when I was young, and my daughter was born when I was 15 years old. May Allah have mercy on her because she died of breast cancer about 4 years ago. Actually, she took her shahada on her deathbed. Alhamdulillah. And I went in there and they told me they did the whole search and everything. It was, I mean, like military drill down. It was tight. But just some things just didn't sound right to me, just didn't appeal right to my soul. You know, like this whole cat, rat, and dog thing to make a pig and people in outer space. It just didn't work out in my mind. So I left. Only went there one time. You know what's funny, ma'am? I mean, me and you have crossed paths so many times, probably on different sides of the street, and didn't even see each other. My sister lived on Menahan Street in Bushwick, which is one block from, you have Gates, then Grove, then Menahan Street, and then it starts coming down towards the Ansar community. I used to walk past there all the time.
MashaAllah.
I couldn't connect with that because at the time, I was heavy in the music industry, playing music in clubs and stuff like that in New York. And I met Dr. York in the studio.
You did?
Yeah, I met him.
You were aware of what Passion Studio?
Oh yeah, I'm very aware of that.
Oh,
he was down with the New York record pool. He used to come to the record pool because back then DJs got their records through a record pool. So like once a week we'd go to the record pool. They would give us like 10 or 15 or 20 records. We would take them in at that on the weekend. We would test them out in the clubs. If the people liked them, we had to come back and give a report on them. And then they would either go to market or they wouldn't, based on how the DJs pushed it.
Okay.
So he used to come to the record pool to try to get. He had the song "Push Push in the Bush," and I just when I found out that he was the same guy that was Imam Isa, I just couldn't take it seriously. Always.
What year was this? I just got. Now you're giving me a history that I was too. I didn't know. What year
this was in the late 70s.
Oh, this been going on for so even when because I came in 80. So it was happening before that.
Yeah, they've been there for a long time. All the stores,
the Passion stuff, the music.
Oh,
I didn't know about that.
Oh no. You know the song that he had, Push in the Bush?
I never heard that one. Yeah. I got the later songs when he came out as Dr. York.
That's when he was Dr. York.
You know about that?
All I knew him as was Dr. York.
Wow, that's interesting.
So when I was walking by one day, I was walking by with these two girls, and you know how you guys used to be standing out there with long jalabias on. You had the big staffs, look like y'all ready to do some work. So I always admired that because I always see the kids playing out in the yard, in the front yard, and they be speaking Arabic. I said, wow, this is kind of deep. And I said to the brother, I said, excuse me, man, can you tell me what's happening with this? He said, well, actually, we're having an open thing now. You can go in there and sit down and listen. So I went in and I sat down. But when I found out it was him, I just couldn't take it seriously. It was just, come on, you're in the studio, you're up in the clubs, and that was probably a part that y'all didn't see. And I never said anything on the chat, but I knew who he was. Okay, so I think we kind of probably crossed paths during that time.
Believe me, remember I told you the story the other day? Because that was my Malcolm X moment for years. I lived with his children. They were who fathered the Quran, everybody. Because people ask me, where did I learn Arabic? I learned Arabic in the Ansar community. We was already doing that as children. Right. Yeah. And I didn't discover that he was doing music to probably about 1987. Maybe 87, early 88.
Way before that.
I never knew.
Yeah.
And we would watching them, we were learning about them, but I never even saw him outside of his garb, except in military clothes.
Right.
I mean, when I was like maybe 17, 18 years old, just turned 18 when I knew he was doing music.
So,
but it was just something but I was a kid. So you got to wonder, if you saw how the kids was, we used to have guards and we was more or less, so I never was familiar with that part of it. That came later. But go ahead. That's interesting.
So anyway, I started training when I was around 15 years old in the martial arts, and by the time it took me like 3 years to get my black, I got my black belt when I was 18 years old, my first one. And for that period of time, the martial arts for me was not about being cool. It wasn't about um, you know being able to do cool moves and stuff like that. It was about survival. I grew up in Brooklyn in a time when you just needed some survival stuff in your belt. It's just the way it was. And when I was, like I said, 18, I got my black belt. When I was around 29 years old, I moved to Philadelphia because I went down. I have a lot of family in Philadelphia, and I went there just to visit. I was down on South Street. The people who are on here from Philly, you know South Street. And I ended up moving on South and Bainbridge. And the reason I moved there, because you could get a whole house for the price that you had for a one-bedroom apartment in New York. I said, this is cool. Front yard, back, all that. Then it was only an hour and a half from New York. So I went there. I started training in there again with different teachers I had. Trained with Grandmaster Moses Powell for about 30 years, Ronald Duncan. I had a lot of teachers anyway. And when I say train, I'm talking about on a daily basis, not just going to a seminar. So anyway, I was in the dojo one day, and this brother named Abdul Alim came in and introduced himself. He had kufi on. I didn't know anything about Islam. Like I just told you, my first one-day visit to the nation and one-day visit to the Ansars. That's all I knew. I had a problem with Christianity from a child because it's just things that didn't make sense to me. One of the things I used to ask preachers and they couldn't answer the question was, they say that Jesus is God, and then they say that he died and he was dead for 3 days. It didn't make sense to me that God could die. And then it didn't make sense to me that the creation was still running in the absence of God. So I was like, who's running the creation while he's gone? They couldn't answer that. Then they told me about this ritual that they do called baptism that's supposed to cleanse a person of sin. And I said, well, God is perfect. He don't sin, right? So how could he have to be cleansed of sin? So these are things that just didn't make sense to me. So I just couldn't really vibe with that, although I came from a Christian background with my family. This didn't make sense to me. What I did pick up from the nation, instantly, I was okay with the not eating pork. I was fine with that. Anyway, I'm in the dojo training, and this guy named Dualim, he was a black belt, I was a black belt, and I used to notice that during the class, we had our class at night, 8 o'clock, in Philadelphia. He would take off and go into the bathroom, and he would come out wet and everything. His face would be wet, his arms would be wet, And then I see him, he had this rug in his backpack, and he would throw it on the ground and he on the floor, and he'd be over there doing this and going down and up and down. He was making salat. I didn't know what it was. And I asked him, I said, brother, what is you doing, man? You come out the bathroom all wet. He said, oh, I'm making wudu. I was like, what's wudu? He said, well, I'm Muslim, I'm making prayer. He walked with me and gave me dawah for about 2 weeks. Then one day, I don't know if you know how Philadelphia is, but there was a masjid, it's still there, on 60th Street called Mujahideen Masjid. The imam was Imam Hassan. I said, we was not that far from there, walking there. We just left the dojo, and I said, man, I think I'm ready. It was about a block. He said, okay, let's walk into the masjid. Now, at the time, he didn't know that he should have given it to me immediately. He didn't know. But we walked to the masjid, and I got to tell you, the closer I got to the masjid, the more nervous I got. And he could see it. And he was like, yo, bro, come on, man. That's just Shaitan trying to keep you from going up in there. I went in, I sat down. The brother gave me Shahada. Malik Wade came in. He told him I just took Shahada. He said something to me that I felt was the warmest thing a human being had ever said to me in my life. He said, now Allah grant you the good in this life and the good in the hereafter. Nobody had ever said anything like that to me before, and it touched me to my heart. I wanted to take classes. I had already been to college and stuff. I had a business, all that. I knew that education required having a teacher. I mean, so when they told me to go and just grab a book out the corner, I said, no, this is, I don't know about that. So there was another brother named Zubair. Me, him, and Abdul Alim used to run together. And Zubair told me about this guy named Sheikh Yaf from Lebanon, and asked him if I could come to his house. I went to his house, and he started teaching me about the 13 attributes of Allah. He taught me how to make wudu. At the time, AICP in Philadelphia was only around 9 people. That's all it was. Maybe 12. And we used to go from house to house and have classes. And I learned the obligatory knowledge. For the new people, that's the knowledge of what we're obligated to do and the knowledge of what we're prohibited from doing. It's pretty basic, it's intense, and I memorized it. When you talk about taking notes and notes and notes, I still have books and books of notes. And then one day we were looking for, they wanted to find a masjid, a place for Musalla. I lived on 45th and Walnut Street. And me and this brother named Mujahid here came over to visit me. We were sitting outside of my house, and there was a church across the street. And we had been hunting all over the place. We found this place on Christian Street. And when we told the sheikh, he said, how are we going to have a masjid on Christian Street? That don't sound right. So I said, all right. So we kept on looking. We saw the sign, and we went over and I talked to the preacher, and he said, yeah, actually, we want to sell the building. I told him about it. I told Hadriat about it. I told some of the other brothers about it. Me and a brother named Haj Hamid went and negotiated with the preacher. And then Hadriat came later. He told us to not. They wanted something like $86,000 for the building. One family donated the money and purchased the building. Now, keep in mind that in those days, it was only maybe around 4 brothers from Lebanon, maybe 5. And at this time, we had built up to about 20, 30 people, all African Americans. From us going around giving dawah in the dojos, in the hood, everybody we knew, going around telling people. And I got to tell you, sometimes I see the new Muslims today, and I feel bad for them because they just don't seem like they have that light, that drive, that go get it that we had. Man, we was on fire. Like you talk about when you was with the Ansars, we was on fire for the deen. We was like strung out on it. And we started renovating the building. You know, it was me and Sheikh Waleed that got up on some ladders with some bolt cutters and cut the cross down off the corner of the building. Crashing to the floors. We out there Muslims, Allahu Akbar, and all that. Make all this noise. Anyway, we renovated the building. And then as time went on, years went by, 2 years went by, 3 years went by, and we were repeating the same information. The same information. I had memorized the Muqtasar, Sheikh Abdullah, from cover to cover. At the time, Sheikh Abdullah found out that it was some foundational African Americans that had taken Shahada in Philadelphia. And he used to send us advices. They used to post them on the bulletin board when you first walk into the Musalla. And it was directly to us brothers, that the African American brothers and sisters. And I remember one that he said, and I live by it to this day. He said, do not spend too much time with your teachers outside of taking lessons and getting advice from them. Because if you do, you'll start to see their faults. And they do have faults. All of us have some. And until you become strong in the deen, it may affect you. And it may put something in your heart towards them that might be not good. And I try to do that all the time. It was Waleed. We call him Waleed. Sometimes I still get caught up in it. Sheikh Waleed. That we asked him, me, Abdul Alim, and a brother named Yusuf Bey, asked him, how you say the art of combat in Arabic? He said, Fanul Harb. He named the system. See, we wanted a system of martial arts, because all martial arts systems are the spiritual base of them is based primarily on Buddhism, and in America you find some that are Christian based. But all of the Japanese, the Asian, all of the Asian arts, their spiritual basis is Buddhism. We didn't want to do that, and we wanted one that's a system that would be based with the spiritual basis of Islam, and that's what we started. We built it. At that time, I'd been training for about 30 years already, and about 20 years. The three of us collectively put it together. My teacher, Moses Powell, gave us permission to do the system, and the Sheikh gave us permission to add the Islamic knowledge to it and relay. He wanted us to relay the knowledge in every class. And to this day, I still do. Sometimes that's worked for me, and sometimes it's worked against me. I've had whole class walk out and not come back because they didn't want to. They had said that they were Muslim. They took Shahada from me, but they just didn't want to study. And I didn't really know how to mix the two. It took some time for me to learn how to do that. But I got to tell you, those were some days that we did a lot of good, but we made some mistakes. One of the good that we did is the African American brothers and sisters. We went all over Philadelphia through the projects, through the hood, where the places where the Arabs could not go. They did not have that lingo to go in and deal with them. They didn't understand the culture, and we went in and we did them. Now, I love them for the sake of Allah, because that's what Allah sent me to get the knowledge. So I didn't come in and have to unlearn stuff and relearn. The knowledge that I got was correct from the beginning. So alhamdulillah, I'm grateful for that. But to be real honest, the best interest of the African Americans was just not in their hearts. It wasn't in their mind. They were building a system for themselves. And to this day, the knowledge is 100% pure. I don't have a problem with that. But I think when I came and started taking these lessons from Imam Amin, I started realizing that it was so much stuff that we was missing. So much stuff that I had no idea about. And it was just a tough situation. But we kept on moving on, and here I am today. So I wanted to tell the new Muslims that because you embrace Islam, it gets beautiful, but it also gets hard. It is constant tests, constant tests. Remember that Allah said what means, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what means that He would test us in our families and our wealth and our property. And you may gain some things and you may lose some things. You may get super sick, but the objective is to keep going and never ever stop, especially with the salat. In the worst of times, I continue to make the salat. It's my salat, alhamdulillah. I advise you to make it sunnah salat, because if you get lazy one day and you miss a salat, it'll be the sunnahs and not the fard. But if you don't make the sunnahs and you get lazy one day, you might miss a fard. May Allah protect all of us from that.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Because when we look at life, right, we look at parallels. History is like a big lesson for the present and from the future. And what do you think that what I noticed that African Americans, when we came, many of us becoming to Islam, we are so energetic. And you find sometimes that others use their energy and manipulate it for their own interests, or not for the best interests of the people that serve them the most. What do you understand from that? What do you think is the why for that, from your view?
I think that as a people, we've since we've been here, we've only had one thing to hold on to, and that's our belief in a creator. That has been the thing that has held us together through all kinds of drama, which you already know. I think people understand that we're fighters, that we're survivors. I don't believe that when our people were taken from Africa that they went and got savages and the worst of people. They went in and got scientists and engineers and mathematicians and builders and people who knew how to do art, medicine. They got the best and brought them here to build the same empire for themselves. And this is just what I believe. And I believe that that tradition has followed and been continuous until this day. It's just that now we're being replaced. It's something that I try to wrap my mind around. And that is when I look at, like, back in the 60s and early 70s when we was gun-ho about going up against the man, reclaiming our African traditions and stuff like that. We were trying to embrace African culture until we realized that they had been colonized and damaged too. And they didn't really want us anymore. And that's just a fact. There isn't a close relationship between us. And I think when I look at what was happening with them, they went through a lot of tribal stuff and destroying, fighting each other. So when they come here with us, they're going to do the same thing, you know? So as far as us as people, yeah, people have used us because of our skills, because of our intelligence, but at the same time telling us that we're nothing. It's kind of like a pimp who has a woman telling her that she's nothing, she's garbage, she's trash. All the while he's benefiting from her financially, but keeping her in a mental state where she thinks that the only way she can survive is by being under his fist, under his hand. And that's a horrible way to live. And we've experienced that and been going through that for years. I look at some situations. I have 5 children. My oldest daughter passed from cancer. 14 grandchildren, 5 great grandchildren. I look at the situations, and I say that, you know, I was once a counselor, an addictions counselor in Philadelphia. And I've read a lot of this stuff and learned a lot of this stuff from psychology. There was this doctor named, his name is Carl Jung, something like that. And he lived in Zurich, I believe it was. And there was this guy that went to him from America to get off alcohol. And he stayed with him for a while, and he came back to America, and then he started drinking again. He went back, and he asked the doctor, like, why can't I do this? And the doctor said to him that the human being left it on his own in society without the wall of religious community could not resist the power of evil. He said this helpful formula is spiritus contra spiritum, which is Latin for the spirit versus the spirit. He said use the same word for the most depraving poison as you do for the highest religious experience. If you see some of the old liquor stores, they say wines and spirits. Why are spirits on a liquor store? It's there for a reason, because something is happening to this person that's taking control of them by some kind of spirit when they take this alcohol in. And then the highest religious experiences, you have taught us about the physical, and the heart is in the middle, and we're either going toward the spiritual or down toward the animalistic. And it just was so clear to me. And so the helpful formula is the spirits versus the spirit. So when I look at the things that's happening, I remember the stories that I heard about, the for lack of better expression, a bet that Shaitan made with a lost parent island, that he would drag as many of us into hell with him as he could. And he would attack us from every kind of which way. And one of the ways that he attacks us most effectively is through our emotions. I was told that the angels have intellect. Allah blessed him with intellect, um, but is it intellect, but not desire. The animals have desire, but not intellect. And the human being has both. So when you said that, all of these things start clicking into place to me. So that I can either take myself, but with the help of Allah, higher, or I can force myself lower. The choice is mine. When I mentioned my martial arts training, I didn't mention it for the sake of, okay, no, I hold out on martial arts and I got all this rank, blah, blah, blah. No, I didn't. The reason why, after I became Muslim, the reason why I stayed in martial arts is because of the discipline. The way that it trained not only my inner self, my outer self, but my inner self. And I learned this there. I learned to eat until I was satisfied, not till I was full. I learned to do a lot of things. I learned that I would not ever get to a point that I would not feel pain. But what I would do is I would be able to function while in pain. And when I came into Islam, I took that same understanding and applied it to Islam. It's not going to always be comfortable, but with the help of Allah, in the times that it's not comfortable, I will still be able to function while it's not comfortable. And that's something that takes practice. We have to work towards that. I worked hard to become a black belt. I worked even harder to go up in each rank. And I work hard now to try to elevate higher and higher in this spiritual experience that we're having. I'm honest with myself about the reality of where I'm at in life. The lifespan of the people of the Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, is what, like 60 to 70 years? I'm 60 years old. So I know that we're all standing in the same line, but I'm kind of close to the front. So I know that I need to be working on my exit plan all the time. And with that said, I'm honest with myself. I don't tell myself, oh, I got all this time to do this, I got all this time to do that. No, I have to work on things. I have to work on me. I have to fix the things that I messed up. Up until I was 50, I used to look forward in life. I used to look at, oh, okay, I want to do this, I want to accomplish that. He's looking forward. After 50 years old, it became a lot of reflecting. And in addition to the reflecting, what do I need to fix about myself? So when the angel of death comes, I get good news. Because I want to be glad to see the angel of death. I want to be excited when I see them. I want to hear, come out, oh good soul, to the mercy of your Lord. I don't want to hear, come out, wicked soul, to the torment of your Lord. I don't want to hear that, because there is no coming back to fix it. There's a slogan that we have in the system. It's called, stay ready to keep from getting ready. And you know what? 99% of martial artists hear me say that, they think I'm talking about fighting. I'm not talking about fighting. I'm talking about the time when we're going to meet the angel of death. That's what I'm talking about. To be ready, so we won't be begging, just give me a minute, let me do this, let me do it. I don't want to go through that. I want to have it right. So many things have happened to me. Some things have happened that have been good. Some things, like I said, have been a struggle. I've always been loyal. I've always been dedicated. When I embraced Islam, when I joined the Jamia and became a part of AICP and started learning, I was very dedicated and loyal. I was excited about the fact that there was an African who was a scholar. Oh man, that was amazing to me. I left Philadelphia, I moved back to New York, and I got a phone call one day. And I want to talk about this because some people don't know really what happened. Because if you go on the internet and put in my name, Haj Tamer's name, Teen's name, you're going to see us in court, standing there. And you look on my face, and I got a smile on my face because I'm kind of laughing a little bit. It wasn't funny. By no stretch of the imagination. I'm laughing because we had $1 million bail each. And the attorneys asked the judge to reduce the bail, and he reduced it to $750,000 each. And so I started laughing. I said, really? What are we going to do with that? What was the point of reduce? You could have left it where it was at. But anyway, what happened in that situation? I hear Imam Amin constantly asking the people to help, asking the people to donate and help. And from past experience with AICP, I've seen thousands and thousands of dollars be generated by the people. Like I said earlier, one family donated the 80 something thousand dollars to purchase the building. And then everybody started donating money to renovate the building. There was a building in Boston, Massachusetts that needed to be renovated for Musalla. The brothers took money out of their bank accounts down to what they needed just to take care of their families. Sisters took their jewelry off, sold it, donated to the cause. This is how dedicated these people were of building that community. 80 something thousand dollars was sent to some brothers in Boston to renovate the building. And we heard about a lot of this stuff after the fact. Although we donated money, we didn't know what had happened to it. We got word that these people had taken misappropriated the money. Found out that they had bought a gas station or rented a gas station, a halal meat market, stuff for their own personal use. So we got a call to go to Boston and go talk to them. So we went up there, went to talk to them. We went to the Musalla, they wasn't there. We went to the meat market, they wasn't there. We went to the gas station, they wasn't there. Just their workers were there. We went to their house. Two brothers went in, and me and Omar and Hajitana, we was outside. We was in the hallway waiting. We heard all this noise. We went in. Man, chairs was flying. Next thing we know, we in this battle fighting. And we heard a helicopter and saw lights down. Somebody had called the cops. We went outside in the hallway. Cops was everywhere. And that's all he went to jail. And the judge told us he felt like it was an act of terrorism, that we had went there to invade the space. Now I want to say something to you guys. If I was called to do that again, in line with what Imam Amin asked me, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go. Not without more details of why I was going, what we was planning to do when we got there. But we trusted. And as a result of trusting, we almost ended up doing a lifetime in prison. It was by the mercy of Allah that we didn't. We got released. The feds came in and took us from the state, took us to the Fed jail. When we got there, we got to court, in the Fed court. And by the time we got there, Sheikh Abdullah had sent one of the brothers to tell us a dua to say and to blow it towards the judge. He said to say the dua and blow it towards the judge. And we did. That $1 million bail disappeared. We walked out of there with not a dime down. We had to go back to our home state and had to come back to court. We went back to court. Now, last night I said something when the Imam was talking about the feds. And I said they have a 98% conviction rate. And I saw why. Because they got charter buses. They took the jury, the entire jury, our 11, I think we had like 10 or 11 attorneys, the prosecutors, the judge. We all went back to the crime scene. They did a whole reenactment. It was amazing. But letters came in from all over the world. In our defense, people sending letters in. Make a long story short, we walked away from that situation. But when I got back to Brooklyn, when I went to the dojo, I taught class, and my dojo wasn't too far from Taqwa Masjid. I walked by Taqwa, and I'm seeing flyers about this whole situation in Boston. And I was like, wait a minute. And they're looking at me like, Tanwir, how you get out of jail? I said, Allah, And so everybody was kind of standoffish, and like the word was that we went up there and did this invasion, and that's not what happened. Not on our part. The 3 African Americans that were there, not on our part. And I'm sure that some of the other people that was there, it wasn't on their part either. I'm not angry with AICP. I love what they have done globally as far as spreading the knowledge. Okay? But there are shortcomings. Remember, there's only one of us that's perfect. That is the best of the creation, rather, and that's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everybody else has some shortcomings, and their shortcomings, they just didn't really care that much about our community, and it's just the truth. And I told them that on many occasions, and I don't apologize for telling the truth. I feel like as long as I'm speaking the truth, I can say whatever I need to say, as long as I say it respectfully. So I hope that answered your question, Imam. I know it was kind of lengthy, me running my mouth. But
here's what I think about, right?
mm-hmm.
Because when you're around, and you've been around for a while, and though I'm young, I told you was like 1989.
Mm-hmm.
I came into these movements in 1980, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I got a long time in this.
Right.
And I seen, like you said, I seen a lot.
Mm.
And so we go through these similar things. And the beautiful thing about the Deen is that we keep going. And when you were explaining our people, because enough of these things we seen, I know brothers who was soldiers with us in the Ansars. And man, they lost it, Ak.
Mm.
After the whole Dr. York thing, it was gone, man. Burnout, done. You can't talk to them about Islam, right? And so I say this because where I'm at in my Islamic development is I want to educate my people so these things don't happen again, right? Like, if I look at all of the struggles we go through, I attribute it all back to knowledge being hidden from us. Right? Because we good people. So if you don't know, somebody gonna do you the business.
Yeah.
So when I look at these types of stories, I say to myself, listen, you have a story. I have a story. People from the Dar have a story. People from, like, there's a lot of stories. What lessons can we draw from them stories? Because we still got to go forward. You follow my point?
I do.
We still have to, and you're going to see a common trend that we got to learn. Number one, the Deen. We got to learn Islam. And then number two, we got to learn to empower ourselves with proper knowledge. Because if we empower ourselves with wrong knowledge, we're going to have the same result, right? Because then the nafs are going to kick in, right? Someone's desire. So I'm like, and we can't quit. We can't do to say, well, I did that already, right? I know what it is to give everything for the struggle, nothing left. Literally, Tanweer, we used to sleep, and you know Brooklyn.
Yeah.
My first building was 689 Bushwick Avenue.
Okay.
Brownstone,
Mm-hmm.
I was on maybe the third floor, second or third floor. The whole building, nothing but brothers. Let me explain to you my sleeping quarters. In my room, we had 8 brothers in one room. We used to take nails, bang them on the wall, and put the hangers and hang your garb, because we only had like white garbs. You know that, right?
Right, right.
we used to take, if you was clever, some brothers would just sleep on the floor. But we was kind of clever guys, a little junior, right? So we would take crates, take a door, tie the door to the crate, the regular door, the door from a bedroom.
Right.
Tie it to the crate, get, the foam inside of the long pillow. You see this thing behind me?
Right.
This good foam, but the little orange foam.
Right.
We would carve it to the length of the door, nail it down, put our sheet. That was the bed. Then we had a little space under there where we could put our shoes or something.
Okay.
And that's how we lived. Rats, them Brooklyn rats.
Yeah, yeah.
Them joints running across you at night. You wake up, your whole face is filled up with, right? It would be, because we in that building, it's brothers in the whole building. So you may have in one building 30 brothers, right? You get 2-minute showers. 3 minutes, because there's no hot water, so you can't take it anyway. And even if you get up early in the morning, right before Fajr, sneak in, and there's guards that's coming around, you got 2 minutes, get up out of there. Okay. No, I'm serious. Man.
I understand.
Right? So now and we live like that, bro, for the cause. And then you're going, you got to go out. You got to make money. Now, just imagine how we live now. I look at my house. I look at where I live. I'm like, what a light difference. Right?
Yeah.
And at that, we're giving, not receiving. We're giving $100 a day. That's $700 a week. Everybody, every man giving to the mosque. Going through that type of stuff, and then it all crumble. And you still keep your faith. Yeah. Right? And a lot of people, they went crazy because you gave up your family, you gave up everything. But here's my thing. Since we still have to do that work, and you go through all the struggle and you see what happens, and you realize that you end up as a people disenfranchised. Well, you still got to work because we got to worship Allah till we die. So what I'm saying is that's made work still difficult, but we still got the same condition. So we still got to work. And from our experiences, we got to learn, make sure that doesn't happen again. But we can't do it with denial. Like, I'm just not going to get involved. You still got to be in the struggle. But the key to that is knowledge. If we go back and look at every situation, if you look at the answers, you look at what you went through, we'll notice that we were always deprived of knowledge of the religion, right? We were spoon-fed. We were given what somebody wanted us to have. So, from your experience, what do we need to do to go forward?
One of the things that's necessary for any enterprise to be successful is that you have to have resources. There's no way you can go forward without resources. As I mentioned last night, a very small percentage of the money that comes to any kind of organization or charitable organization or religious organization comes from donations, for the most part. Very small percentage of it. The rest of it comes from doing other things. One of the things that I've seen happen in Philadelphia with AICP, I've seen it happen when I was a Panther, is that people would, the group would invest in a person who had a particular skill. So say, for instance, someone is a chef and wanted to open a restaurant. Well, the Musalla, from the donations that come to the Musalla, would go into business with them. It would get the nonprofit status and would avoid a lot of taxing. And a percentage of the money returns would come back to the masjid. Then they would do that again with each other person. So if a person wanted to open an electrical company, wanted to open a plumbing company, wanted to open a carpentry business, wanted to open a medical office for a doctor, different things. The masjid would invest in the business with them, a percentage, like 50%, 30%, 40%, and get returns on that as well. So that's just one venue of doing it. Another thing that I think that we can do as a people that I think is extremely important. When I was hustling in New York, I had ran across an item that the Chinese used to use with their stuff. It was a small little bottle they used to use. And I had a couple of thousand of them. And I went to Chinatown and I talked to some of the Chinese store owners and I asked them, I said, like, I could offer you this product at a 30% discount. And they was like, no, sorry, that's okay. We don't need it. And I said, why don't you turn down a deal with a 30% discount? Wouldn't that like bring your return back, mark it up tremendously? They said, what you don't understand is that we only buy from our own people. And if you did the same thing,
they told you that.
They told me that to my face. Of course, I got pissed off when he said it. But I couldn't, like, how are you going to argue with the truth? It's like no room in there to fight with that. So I took a lesson from it. And I said, we need to buy from each other. I'd like to ask everybody that's on this in the chat right now, if you could take, and whatever it is that you do for a living, whatever it is, if you clean houses, if you cook, if you're a doctor, if you're an engineer, if you're a scientist, no matter if you're a plumber, if you weld, if you cut grass, if you paint houses, post it on there. Let me take all of those people and what they do, and I will put together a site for city to city to city. And whenever we need something done, we go purchase it from each other. And don't tell me that, Abdul charges too much money for his services when you're wearing Gucci, when you're driving a Benz, when you got all of these expensive clothes on, Prada, all of this, and none of us don't own any of that. But a brother or sister come along and say, I got a product that costs $30, and you say, well, can I get a discount? If we can do something just that small, and then take some of those returns and donate it to the masjid. So if we have a list like Angie's List, we could do that. We have the ability to do that, especially with today's technology. We can have our own Angie's List with all of the services that we do throughout the country. And when people in that country, when that city need things done, I invented a product. And when I saw Sister Nora's, her thing, it says Sister Nora and her last name, and then it had ENG, and I said she's an engineer. And then I heard she said she was an engineer. She was a mechanical engineer. Me and my wife sent her, inboxed her, got on the phone with her, and say, sister, I know you live far away. I could probably find somebody here to do that, but we want to do business with our own people. Can you help us to take this product, give us an engineer's approval on the product, so that when we go to market with it, it's already covered? Like, for instance, if you have, say, for instance, you come up with an idea to do something or make something that they sell at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, and you want to manufacture it. There are Muslim companies that do it, African-American companies that do it, sisters that make hijabs. You can get other sisters that sew to take care of it for you. People that do any kind of supplies that Home Depot sells, approach Home Depot. But when you approach them, have your patent, have your stuff already, what is it called? Patent, all your paperwork in order. You've had your engineer's approval, okay? You got everything together. So when you approach them, you don't have to get some outside company to do it. You can sell them the idea, they break you off a check, and then they sell it, and you get a percentage of that money every year. And a portion of that money can go to the masjid. There's brothers that I know that sell computer components. And what they do is they had the masjid invested in that. Okay, invested in their company, even if it's only 10%. If their return is $50,000, 10% of that is $5,000. So now, if they do that in 6 months, that's $5,000. It's not a lot, but over a period of time, it builds. And if everybody is doing something similar to that, it builds. With all of the people that's on this platform right now, was to send in what they do. And because of COVID, yeah, we have to reinvent ourselves. A lot of stuff we have to do from home. And we have the technology to do that now. And so with that technology, I don't have to go out and do a lot of footwork to a new company. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already done. Okay. If I want to look to people to see how it's done, all I got to do is look at the dominant society. How did they do it? How is it that we say we can't do business with each other, but you don't think that white people actually like each other, do you? Because they don't. A lot of them are enemies with each other, but they manage to do business together. And they manage to do the same business together. That's just a small fraction. Imam, I know this time is very short on here, but there are things that I would like to talk to you about as far as ways to generate money for the masjid and to build a school and to build different things that we need and to pay the teachers that you're talking about paying. There's different things that we can do. And I would like to have a conversation with you about them to see what would work and what wouldn't work. But there's a lot of us on here and we can do this. I don't have no doubt about it. Let me just say this one thing, Imam. As teenagers, remember I said I was 13 years old. Remember, the Panthers was not old men. These was young men and women. You talk about strong women today, cats is all nervous about a strong woman. Be glad you didn't meet one of them sisters because they were strong, man. They would handle their business with you. So what I'm saying is that we were able to have a food drive where we fed the kids, a medical truck to go around the community and service the community with medicine. We had lawyers for them. So many things that went down. A lot of people, I don't talk a lot of stuff because, there's people in here that we don't know who they are. And sometimes I like to say, if you're here for the wrong reason, one thing that you want to understand and realize, that I want you to understand and realize is that there's no God except Allah. Muhammad is his messenger. And if you're here to snoop on that and pick up on that and accept that in your hearts. And if you don't, you're going to be responsible for it on the day of judgment because you heard it. There's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Believe in all of the prophets from Adam to Muhammad. One of the things that I wanted to, I'm sorry, man, I cut you off. Go ahead and say it.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to say.
Listen, there's one of I have a partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the masjid, my right-hand man, right? We used to run the streets together. So we go way back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And running a masjid in a black community and maintaining black leadership is a challenge, but it's really not easy, especially with the change of the society. So you gotta give everything. So I thank Allah for my path before I became an imam. Right?
Yeah.
I can understand from looking back, I was prepared for this before it happened. Allah took me through everything I needed to do in general as a foundation to handle what I'm going through now. Right? My brother said to me, he said, how you get up every morning and do this stuff? Like you keep going. I said, there was a time when I had no choice. Right? It was like this. You're getting up or you're getting beat up. That's how that's going to work. We had a crew that just go around beating people up for not doing what they're supposed to do. Seriously. And dudes who knew martial arts, dudes who were skilled, they'll bust you up. That was the environment. And in that environment was, you got to be a soldier. Soldiers don't sleep. Soldiers go to work. That's it. So when I look at what we do today, it's a cakewalk. You know what I mean? Like for that environment, this is nothing, right? So I say that to say this, that what you're saying, the brother told me, he said, because sometimes it get rough. Sometimes you be like, right? He said to me, he said, Imam, keep doing, he's my very close brother to me. He said, keep doing what you're doing. Allah's going to send you the help from where you never imagined. And what we have done on this platform, right? By doing what we're doing, Allah has sent amazing, I couldn't describe the different support that we have received on this work. So when I'm listening, just listening to you, for me, it's like, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, right?
Amen. I've been through a lot.
So, because these are soldiers, and you know, some things we just don't talk about, right? But when you're a soldier, you know there's a lot of things you can't talk about, right? When you're a real soldier, you talk about some stuff that's just an ishara to a reality, right? And when you see all of these, like you ask about this, people are putting in, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do. Now you got to go back and get all that, right? but they answering, they're responding. And then when they see us, and that's what I tell the imams and the Black Imams Roundtable, listen, our people are counting on us. Too many people has let us down. We can't do that. We got to make sure we do what we say. And that's why I say I welcome you so you can see how we live. Not some guy who's, you know, living high off. Nah, we don't live like that. We soldiers. We on the ground. We do exactly what we say we're going to do. And everybody around us is like that. So that's what we need, but we need that all around the country. Not in one masjid, not in two. We need it for us everywhere. And that's what we want to do. The pandemic got us kind of trapped, so we can't move as much as we like, but we're doing what we can. But as soon as we get the opportunity, we got to hit the streets. Like you was talking about before. That's where we lived. We lived with the people. There was no, I'm the imam, and you know, I got my car, I got my salary, and I'm sitting in my chair. No. You, get out in the street. The Prophet ﷺ was out in the street with the people. He wasn't the Sahaba go and he sit home. No, he was in the front. He was in the front. He was with them. And he never left them until he died. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. To his deathbed, that's how he was. Right? I think of one of the sayings of Khalid ibn Walid, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He was the sword of Allah, unleashed. He said something on his deathbed. He said, I fought in so many battles, and we know Khalid ibn Walid, soldier. He said, I'm laying here in my bed, and I don't have a spot on my body that doesn't have a sword mark, an arrow, a knife, some kind of wound everywhere. And I'm dying in my bed. He said, may Allah never give life to a coward. Right? So, all right, he's on a battlefield. But we live in our cities are a jungle. It's a battlefield. I came from Juma today, a young brother, and I shared this on this Malcolm X thing I just did. I was in the masjid after Jumu'ah. So usually people come to Jumu'ah and then everyone leaves, right? There's this young kid. He's in waiting all the way to Asr time. And so I'm walking in, I see this young kid. You know, he got his pants, a young guy. He says to me, he said, Imam, can you teach me how to be a man?
Wow.
And I was sitting there like, I never saw him as far as I remember. He said he came to the masjid. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's nobody to teach me how to be a man. I live with my mother,
Inshallah.
and I want to be a man.
Mm.
And I watch you on the Black Imams Round Table. He doesn't live in my city. He came from another city. He said, I want you to teach me how to be a man. What do you do with that? Right?
You work with it. You work
Right.
with it.
I mean,
yeah.
this is a young brother, and I'm looking at him, and I remember when I was his age. Right?
Yeah.
I want to be a man. Teach me how to be a man. Teach me how to take care of a woman. Teach me how to be a husband. This is the kid talking to me. So, and I said, all right, here, take my number. He said, my phone don't work. I got to wait till I get Wi-Fi. He's in the masjid, and I'm sitting there like, and all the brothers who were there, they're like Egyptians. It was a bunch of Egyptians. They're like, Imam, you want us to give him money? I said, no, I'm going to work with him. Don't worry about it. I'll come to that later.
Mm.
Right now, we're going to teach him responsibility about a phone. Right? And so I gave him, and we talk, and I'll get with him, inshallah. Then we go out. We leave. I got the person from security with me. We go out. We go to a store. We pull up to the store. There's a lady. She got the car door open, vomit all over the car, and she's shaking, going through withdrawal.
Mm.
Dolphin.
Mm.
I mean, like, she's having a massive overdose.
Mm.
Like, she's going through it, like, can't give me. And I'm looking at this the brother who's the head of our security. I'm like, look at this sister, man. Look at this woman. I said, drugs is killing us.
Mm.
Right? We drive from there, we go into towards the projects. And you can see some people walking, you just looking like life has just dropped a brick on their head.
Mm.
Right? And here's my thing. While we have given all our energy, all of our resources, all of our time, soldiered for everyone else, this is our condition still.
Mm.
Okay? I leave and I come to the suburbs, right?
Mm.
And I don't see that in my neighborhood. But I grew up, but I make it my business. I was telling my wife, I said, we need regularly, every week, to go back to those jungles, right? Because that's the reality of too many of us, right? And we learned from our teachers in Yemen, they said they made a covenant between themselves. A covenant. They said, An-naji minna ya'qudu biyadi akhi. That the one who is saved from us, he takes his brother by the hand until he's saved as well. That's that old, I am my brother's keeper. We got to do that. So for me, when I listen to you, I see, mashallah, as he told me, Allah is going to send everything we need to get this job done, right? And I believe that this work is going to come from people who are in the trenches like you, right? And we got to prepare the next generation to be in the trenches, but build their own stuff. So we don't say later that we did all this and we have nothing to show for it. Nah. We gotta, our thing is when we reach that grave, we left a legacy that's going to be continued. But it's not sufficient just in our locality. We need to take that around the nation and connect with people of like minds and communities, because there's too many of our masajid in our communities that need this unity. And it just takes a couple of dedicated people. We already know how to soldier. We got the recipe. We learned the hard way. Now let's do it, fi sabilillah, the right way, with the knowledge, with the correct belief, and then do it. We can do that. We already did it, just someone else usually took the prize. Right? We did it already. We did it multiple times. Now we got to do it where we build enough. But like you said, I think it's that. So I don't mean to go long. It's just your point is, and I was telling my wife, we don't have enough time to do what we need to do. But every moment we get, we gotta take advantage. So I'm with you, Habibi. My hand is in your hand.
Alhamdulillah. Some things we need to relearn. Like um, we talk about getting married, and how many of us have honestly learned how to pick a wife, learned how to pick a husband? I mean, before we even get to the point of going to the imam, how many of us have actually learned that? We know how to get a relationship. And while we're at it, is it Imam Fahim that's from Queens? Or is it
No, that's Imam Naeem.
Naeem. I want to apologize to Imam Naeem for the way we cats from Brooklyn used to take their girls all the time. Please accept my apology. Anyway, mashallah. We let LL have one from Brooklyn though, so it's all good. But you know, like before I came into the deen, you know, it wasn't having more than one relationship was common. Right. It wasn't something that was you even thought about it. You know, it was just what men did. Okay. Coming into the deen though changed things now because it added some responsibility to it that wasn't there before. And I learned a lot of things as I was growing up, but actually how to pick the mother of my children was not in my lessons. I didn't learn how to do that. I didn't learn how to pick a woman other than for her beauty or other things that I could benefit. I didn't know how to do that. Like she was fun or whatever, you know. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. I'm fortunate that I didn't have any like crazy bad endings in my relationships before I was Muslim.
And Imam Naeem said, by the way, he took one from Brooklyn just in case you don't know.
Okay. You got that. But we didn't learn how to pick women properly. And even coming into the deen, you know, we came into Islam. I remember I was standing with one of the sheikhs in front of the Musalla in Philadelphia, and I said, you know, we're bringing a lot of people here. At the time, the African Americans, man, we was going hard calling people to the religion. We were bringing a lot of people in. So, you know, that means that we were bringing people in that came in with drug problems, they were crackheads, women that was coming off the street, dudes that was selling drugs because it was just coming home from prison, people who had different kind of diseases and illnesses. When you're dealing with a community, you're going to receive all of this stuff when the community is ill. And it's always baffled me that we can have so many hospitals in a city and the people in there still be so sick. So that tells me they're not really trying to cure them. So, but what we have to do that from amongst ourselves with taking care of our health and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, but I asked them, I said, well, how are we going to deal with these people when they come in? You know, they come in, when somebody come to the door and they heard about Islam, but they're gay and they want to hear about it. They want to become Muslim. How are we going to deal with that? Oh, you know, when they come in and they got a drug habit, how are we going to deal with that? When they come in, they're homeless. How are we going to deal with that? They were not prepared to deal with the problems in the inner city. Whether it was because they didn't want to or because they didn't know how, Allahu A'lam. I just say it didn't happen. But that's a huge responsibility on us. So how do we go about picking a relationship? We learned about, you know, making the istikhara salah. I tell you something, when I met my wife and she asked me what I wanted in a woman, what did I want in a wife? My response was simple. I want somebody that's going to help me obey Allah and help me get to Jannah. If somebody is helping me do that, everything else about her is going to be okay. I don't have to worry about nothing else about her. Everything else is going to be okay. And that was fine with me. And alhamdulillah, she's been doing that. We moved here to Houston. I promised myself I would never live in Texas. You know why? Because Texas has the death penalty. And I get into stuff. So I didn't want to be here. I have no problem like that. But I ended up here because it's amazing how that happened. We came here during the flood. They had this big flood. Houses got all jacked up. We came here. I'm a contractor. I build and renovate houses and stuff like that. I retired from that. I still do a little bit on the side. But anyway, we came here to fix the house back. And when we got here, we realized that her parents, they were over 80 at the time. And now they're like 90. And she said to me, you know, my parents need some help. Do you mind us moving from it? Because we was living in Atlanta, which is a whole nother story. Trying to find correct belief in Atlanta is that's a whole nother story. But I was like, sure. She asked me if I wanted to, would I would be okay to move here. And I said, sure. And the first thing that came to my mind was that my mother loved me from my first breath to her last. I still reach for my phone to call my mom sometimes to realize that she's not here anymore. My mother died when she was 77 years old. And I'm saying this to you guys to tell you, don't ever give up on your family. Lead by example. Lead from the front. When I teach martial arts, I teach from the front. Trust me when I tell you everything that I tell my students to do, I can still do at 66 years old. And I do it with them, okay? Because I lead from the front. Just like the Imam is leading from the front by example. My mother said she said she would never become Muslim. And I said to her, I said, Ma, do you realize what you're saying to me? She said, what? I said, a Muslim is a person who submits to the will of God. Are you telling me that you would never submit to the will of God? And you're the one that taught me about God? You gave me my first introduction to a basic understanding of God. It wasn't correct, but it was a basic, you put that seed in my heart. And as time went by, and she seen me turn from the person that I was into the person that I became as a result of Islam, she was impressed by it. 2 weeks before she died, she took a shower. My family was furious. They came to the funeral. I led my mother's prayer, janazah prayer. I picked my mother's body up with my arms and placed it in the casket. My mother had a smile on her face. I called. I told you stuff that wasn't cool about AICP. Let me tell you what happened. I was in Miami. My mother died in Miami. I went down to Miami. I didn't know I went to one masjid there. I told them my mother had died. I needed somebody to help me get things organized. I had the money to bury her with and everything. They told me to wait till the Imam came back. He was out of town. I was like, come on, y'all crazy. I need to bury my mother now, not next week. Anyway, I made a call to Omar Mateen. He got in touch with Hajj Omar at AICP. He was the president of AICP at the time before that. He called, may Allah have mercy on him, he's passed away now. He called the Musalla in Miami. And I got a call about 15 minutes later from a brother in Miami. He asked me what happened. I said, my mother had passed away. I had a body at the funeral home. I wanted to bury her. I needed some help with her janazah to wash her body, stuff like that. He said, don't worry, brother. Somebody will be there for you tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock that next morning, 4 sisters pull up in the car. It was foreign sisters. 4 sisters pull up in the car. They had the cloth to wrap her with. They had the oil put on her. They washed my mother's body. They shrouded it. And they rolled her out from where they did the body. I picked her up with my arms and I placed her in the casket. It is a weird feeling to pick your mother's dead body up and place it in the casket. And I survived that. And as a result of surviving that, getting locked up, losing loved ones, losing friends, losing jobs, having all kind of failures. And I said, nothing can hurt me I can't think of anything that could hurt me as bad as I was hurt when I lifted my mother's dead body up off of that gurney and placed it in the casket. And I survived that. If I can survive that, whatever else is coming down the path, inshallah, I'll be able to survive that as well. And I have been moving forward ever since. I refuse to give up. With the help of Allah, I refuse to give up. I want to tell young people, you want a wife, ask Allah. Tell Allah what you want in a wife. I don't want a fine chick. I don't want, the baddest babe in the musalla or the baddest babe that I meet in the street. Because sometimes brothers meet a sister in the street, give her dawah, she takes shahada, she turn out to be a beautiful Muslim. It happens. But I asked Allah for a woman that our love would increase, that He would place that heart, that love, because I believe that love comes from Allah. No person can make me love them. That love is placed, it's a gift from Allah. And even if we part ways, I'm not going to stop loving them. I'm not going to stop loving a Muslim because we parted ways. We met with a smile, and if we leave, we're going to leave with a smile. So young brothers and sisters, try to keep that first and foremost. When you have a dispute between each other, say, hold on, wait a minute. One of you guys got to say, we do love each other. Let's keep that first and foremost. We do love each other. So, and our religion is Islam. So everything else is secondary to those two things. And we can fix those things. But we got to remember that we love each other. And I asked for a woman that I would be attracted to as we change, because I'm not fine like I was when I was young.
Okay, Habibi.
Okay. So
I'm fine. You think I'm fine now?
But we change. Our bodies change. And as we change, sometimes people become less attracted to that. So I asked Allah for someone that as we grew and changed, we would still be attracted to each other. We would still be compatible in every aspect of being married. So it was some details to what I asked for. And you know what? Alhamdulillah, He gave it to me. He gave it to me. And brothers, understand that sisters is different than us. They wired different, man. They wired just a little bit different. One question you never want to ask your wife is, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? Don't do it. Okay? Because she's going to tell you, you pick. And then everything you say, she's going to say, I don't want to eat that right now. Okay? Get what you want to eat and then tell her whatever you want, you'll take her to get it. Real simple, man. Don't drive yourself crazy like that. All right? And understand, they really outclass us when it comes to that emotional thing. We're not built like that. Don't try to go word with them. It's just not going to work. They're going to defeat you every time. Every time. They're going to drag you in the mud. So don't do it. I was always taught that the Prophet ﷺ said the best of you are those who are best to their wives. Be good to the sister. I mean, what you got to lose? You have nothing to lose. This is the mother of your children, And my sisters, I've seen so many men crying because they can't see their children, because something went down, some kind of beef between the man and wife, and they don't let them see their children. I see brothers 30 years later, the woman coming back and say, I need you to fix what happened to him. Like the brother that Imam Amin just said was sent to him and said to him, I want to learn how to be a man. Something happened to that boy's life. Something happened. And we have to really come together and work on those kind of things. You know what? Inshallah, we're going to be okay. Can I tell them a little story, man?
All right, we got one more, Sayyidi, because I got in trouble for keep going over the time. So
okay.
we definitely got to have you back, but tell the story.
Okay.
But so we're going to take them story, but you touched a lot of hearts, Habibi, so you got to become a regular now. We got work to do.
Alhamdulillah.
They want to sign you up as the elder for us.
Mashallah. I believe the brother's name was Barsisa. You guys might know him, might have heard the story about him. It was a story about where they said this brother was a righteous man, and he lived in like the Musalla. And it was three brothers that wanted to, that was called to go and fight with the king. And they had a sister. And they went to him and asked him to take care of their sister. And first he said no, but then later on he said, okay, I'll do it. He put the girl in a house behind the Musalla. And every day he would go and take her food and put it down to the door and leave and go back. She would come to get the food. As time went by, Shaitan came to him and said, well, why don't you ask her through the door if she's okay? So he started dialoguing with her through the door. As time went by, Shaitan said, well, why don't you bring your food and sit down outside and eat with her after she takes the food inside? So he did that for a while. Time went by. Then Shaitan said, why don't you go in or just open the door so she can see somebody and have communication with another human being? She's probably lonely and just needs to talk to somebody. So he sat outside, she sat inside with the door open, and they had their meal together like that. Time went by, and Shaitan said, well, why don't you go in the house and check to see if all her needs did? She said she's okay, but why don't you go in and check, see for yourself? Just leave the door open. Time went by, he did that. Then Shaitan said, listen, you a righteous man, go ahead and close the door. Time went by, you guys kind of know where this is going. He ended up committing zina with her. She got pregnant. Shaitan came to him and said, well, when her brothers hear about this, they're going to kill you. You got to get rid of her. So he ended up killing the sister, burying her and the child. Went back home. When the brothers came back, they went to him and asked him where she was. He told her she had died, got sick and died, blah, blah, blah. They went home. They all had the same dream. Where Shaitan came to them in a dream and told them that he was lying and where she was buried at. And they went back and they dug up her grave where she was at, and they found him. And they got mad and took him to the king. On the way there, when they got to the king, Shaitan told him, I'm the one who got you into this, and I'm the only one that can get you out. But in order for you to get out, you have to bow down to me. He bowed down to him, down to Shaitan, and when he did, they cut his head off, and he died a kafir as a result of that. So Shaitan doesn't come at us all in one bunch. It comes at us in little bites. Little bites. Look out for those little small things. Remember that the mountains of sin, mountains are made out of small grains of sand. So remember the small things. And I know that Imam probably told a story before. He tells a lot of stories, but this is one that had an impact on me. And there's many other stories that I could tell you that I've heard over the years about different things. Alhamdulillah. But the sister, Sheikha Aisha Prime, she told a story the other day that really touched my heart. And if you guys can go back and listen to that, I know we have to go on overtime now. But go listen to that, and it was impressive. It really touched my heart. Alhamdulillah. You know.
No, go ahead, Sayyidi.
No, I was just saying I was done. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, but you know something, I'm a I go by my heart. I don't follow. I'm not good at sticking to how do you say I don't play all like the rule. You got to do it this way. I like that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us to where we go. And I don't like to interfere with that. You got to have some structure, yes. But structure that says, let Allah guide us, right? This is just a platform, but let's see where Allah takes this. So that's my excuse to say we went over time, but Allah, the people are enjoying their benefit, and mashallah who can, right? So I appreciate your time, and inshallah, I hope you will come back again and be a regular. So we need these And for our communities, we need these talks because many of us, we don't have the opportunity to talk to our elders, right? And I remember one of our teachers telling us, if a person is one day older than you, he's your elder, and listen to him. If he's one day older than you, he's your elder, and listen to him. So we need that also revived in our community, right? Where experience is respected, right? And we benefit much from that. So inshallah, we will pray that Allah, gives you a long life, long life, so that we can learn from your experiences and we can grow. So when we reach your age, that we are prepared to pass those jewels to the next generation, and even before that. So may Allah make it easy for all of us. Inshallah, we can be prepared for tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we have at 6:15 Kitab al-Adhkar, which we'll be reading the Arabic text with some brief explanations in English with Sheikh Abdul Rahman, Hafidhullah. Then after, we're doing the post-Fajr reflections, but in that, until the 21st, I'm going over this book, Ahl-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, Al-Asha'ira. The Ahl-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, they are the Asha'ira. So I'm reading this book. I gave a sister my English translation, so I don't have it. I gotta get another one. I don't have it here with me because she came to Jumu'ah and took my book. Sister Wafia, y'all can blame her why I don't have my English book, right? But alhamdulillah. So we're going to go over this book because it is a nice entry into Al-Aqidah Tahawiyah that we're going to study. So I'm going to read this book every day up to, and the book is there. It's in the 25 books, so I'm going to read this book and explain what we can of this beneficial thing until we get to the 21st when we start. So hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, everyone will have their books by then, and then I can start. Because as I said, I honestly believe that without the knowledge, we can have all the good intentions we want. Without the correct belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're not going to be successful. So we need to secure that first. That's our asl, that's our foundation. And then we build on the other things, right? So knowledge is important. And I honestly believe from experience and from listening to you, we got to teach ourselves. We learn from others. Yes, don't get that wrong. We don't want to go to the extreme. If it ain't black, I don't want to learn from it. That's a mistake. Long as the knowledge is correct, we're going to go learn. But we're going to take that knowledge and we're going to build our own communities. No longer surrendering ourselves to someone who don't have our interests, right? That hasn't worked well for us. But we still need to learn from the proper sources and take our knowledge and make sure we get it right. And they're on the Leslie, can you put the 25 books up? Sister Malika, they're on the website. I think she'll put it up. And we'll the books are there. But all of those books we were reading, but COVID really, it hit us kind of hard. So it took a little air out of us. But inshallah, we're getting stronger again, and so tomorrow morning it'll be up. But the book there is up. So inshallah, we will get it together, inshallah. So could you close us out with Al-Fatiha, quick dua, or whatever you choose, inshallah.
Sure. It's one of my favorite things to say is Bismillah, alhamdulillah, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. I'd like to beg Allah to allow us to remember, to allow us to be neighbors in paradise.
Ameen.
Allow us to remember these good times that we had here together, to gather us together when this COVID thing is over, and help us to grow and strengthen us and prepare us for the coming of the Dajjal, and prepare us to prepare our children for us coming, our children for the coming of Isa. I'd like to ask Allah to keep it in our hearts and our minds to take an inventory of ourselves on a daily basis and to allow us and help us to repent from the wrong things that we've done, that we know about and that we don't know about, that we forgot, that we remember, and protect us from the torment of the grave. I am scared to death of that. I ask Allah to have mercy upon us and grant us paradise without any prior torture. My mother-in-law, Sally Laws, when you see her on here, that's my little soldier. She's 87, 88 years old. And when we get up in the morning, she's listening to your lesson.
Allah yaftah alayha. Futuha al-arifin,
She got
inshallah.
a little walker. She come rolling in here to make salat with us. You know? So she's hanging in there. That's one of the benefits of us coming here. My wife gave her mother shahada. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Don't give up on your families, people.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Inshallah, we'll close with Al-Fatiha, Bisir Asrar Al-Fatiha. Jazakallahu khaira. Barakallahu feek, Sayyidi. May Allah give you an opening of the Arifin, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.